Hi guys, I want to talk about which languages are superior to others. There's a language superiority train that we never talk about, and I want to talk about why people don't learn African languages. Why not, guys? Well, it's because we consider European languages better. We consider Asian languages to be for smart people, right? Or if you're into Korean dramas or things like that, or Japanese anime, is considering like a fun language to learn. But most people are not into learning African languages, right? Because they're considered insignificant or unimportant. You don't need an African language to navigate through the world. If you think about it, people say they need English to get a job, especially people in DR. They need to learn English to get jobs at call centers and in hotels, things like that. Some people need German to get a job or to live well because they immigrate to Germany. Same with Portuguese, Italians, Spanish. Spanish in itself is considered a beautiful language. It's considered pretty to hear. It's considered sexy. French also is considered sexy. It's alluring. It's a language spoken by sophisticated people because French people are considered sophisticated, right? Same with Italian because it's also considered like it's depicted in movies as like a language of love. It's called a romance language, right? It's one of the romance languages. And it is considered like somewhat romantic. But with African languages, they aren't really considered romantic. I like Swahili because it sounds cute and feminine and light. I think it's a very feminine language. It's like when I think of Swahili, I always think about how women speak Swahili. It always sounds like Ninataka, Ninataka, Hapana. It sounds really sweet. But when you think about other languages in Africa, they always have this like negative stigma, especially in West Africa, especially in regards to like Nigeria or Ghana. They don't have this same allure. And when most people think about Africans, they think about Nigerians for one. So this one girl said, I posed this question on my Facebook, and they were like, "Oh, well, it's because African languages." When I think of African languages, I think of people with deep voices. I think of women speaking with really deep voices. So maybe that's what turns people off of African languages. And I think that's part of it also. And I think it's because people think they don't need an African language. Like you don't need it for a job. So it's kind of put, I don't know, put out there as like useless. Even though I don't, it's rude to say, but it's depicted as something that you don't need. Something that's really hard also. It's hard to find resources for without paying. Like you can find some videos about Chichewa, also called what Nyanja, spoken with in I believe in was it Angola or Namibia? I don't remember. You can find some videos on Igbo. You can learn how to say Kedu and Indio and all that. You can find some languages on some videos, not languages, some videos on Yoruba. But ultimately, it's nothing like the resources you can find for German, for Portuguese, for Spanish, for English, for Italian. It's nothing like that. Unless you pay like a lot of money, you would really have to know someone from that country who's willing to teach you. And they're few and far in between because I can, like, I've actually been trying to look for someone to help me with Swahili. I found one person, but it's nothing like the abundance of people who can teach you English and Spanish. Or even Korean. Like, you can find more people trying to teach you Korean or maybe Japanese also, but it's nothing like nothing. It's nothing like the people or the resources and teachers you can find for African languages. They're fewer in abundance. They're not in abundance, basically. Um, so, what do you think? Why do you think a lot of people don't learn African languages? Is it a negative stigma towards Africa? It's because we associate Africa with everything negative, or is it because I think most people don't even consider it. It's just. I think most people don't consider it. I think they just think like, oh, I want to learn language. I'm gonna learn Chinese or Korean, because those are really hard languages. And people say it has to do with need or because you already speak English, which it does, because that's why I like Spanish, because it's the proximity. All the countries around us speak Spanish. Mexico speaks Spanish. Maybe not Canada, but the rest of the Americas is heavily Spanish speaking, with the exception of places like Suriname and Curacao and Trinidad and Tobago, but Jamaica, but a lot of other countries, it's like Latin America is quite big. So that's undebatable. But what about Africa? And like I say, I'm not judging anyone who doesn't study African language. It's not like I'm saying you're a bad person. Do you think that it will help us connect to people from West Africa or not? Tell me what you think at the end of this video. Comment below.